Here's a question that many high achievers really never pause to ask. What if the next level of your success isn't about more, but is instead about better? So not more hours, more output, more strategy, more funnels, more, not that. That's what we've been conditioned to chase. But eventually more becomes the enemy of excellence, of better. Welcome to Wise Minds, Wild Hearts. I'm Kip Clark, and today I'm going to talk about the space between more and better. And that space is where exponential growth actually begins once we stop piling on more and instead start subtracting. So in a previous episode, I talked about the subtractive strategy. And that strategy is all about taking a look at everything you're doing and finding what no longer serves you and just letting that go. Now, I had a client a few years ago, and she was working long hours in a business that she'd built from scratch. And she was really proud of it, and rightly so, because she was doing well. It was thriving. Her business was thriving. But when I asked her how she measured success, she said to me, honestly, Kip, I'm not sure anymore. I feel like I just need to keep adding more of what I'm doing so I don't fall behind. And that, again, that's really hard to sustain. Adding more and more and more, it's hard to sustain. Her work was thriving, but her energy was tanking, and her sense that she was thriving was completely missing. And that's what I see in many high performers, especially the ones that look like they're the most together, to be honest. So oftentimes they are not. They've got the appearance of having it all together, but they are exhausted and depleted. And that's because they're confusing growth, organic growth, with addition. And the assumption is that in order to level up, to get to that next level, we've got to add more habits, more hacks, more hustle. Now, there's a really amazing body of research showing that our brains are quite literally biased towards addition when it comes to problem solving. And this comes out of, there's research all over the place about this now, but a team of cognitive scientists, two of them include Benjamin Converse and Gabrielle Adams. They demonstrated that when people were asked to improve something, they almost never thought to remove anything. And so the kinds of tasks that they were looking at, one group was given a kind of a wobbly tower that'd been made out of Lego blocks. And another group were asked to edit a paragraph and make the paragraph better. And a third group was asked to optimize a schedule or a process of some kind. Overwhelmingly, participants in the study added. So they added more pieces to the Lego tower to make it stable, or they added more words to the paragraph, or they added more steps to the process or to the schedule. In those instances in which some of the participants subtracted, they actually ended up with a much better outcome, much simpler, more elegant, and in every case, more effective. So this is a kind of trap that we can fall into both professionally and personally, especially for high achievers, because our minds equate adding with progress, and they'll equate subtracting with laziness or with failure, perhaps. It's an invisible bias, and it can keep high achievers trapped in a cycle of overcommitment. So I want to share an exercise with you, and it's one that I've used with great success with clients. It's called the Enough Line, and here's how it works. You just take a piece of paper, and you draw a line from top to bottom so that you're dividing the paper in half. You've got a left-hand column and a right-hand column. And then start with just one area of your life. So it might be your business, your work. It might be some aspect of your health. It might be a relationship that you have. It might be some aspect of personal growth. So you can decide the area. I'm going to base my example on work examples. So you've got those two columns. The left-hand column is where you will write down what you currently do. And I suggest when you're starting this exercise, just pick 10 things. So think of 10 things that you do from one day to the next, let's say week in and week out. So across an average week of work for you, what are 10 things that you tend to do week in, week out? Everything that you put time and energy into it because it feels necessary or you feel like you're expected to do it, or for whatever reason, you do it. And then the right-hand column will be where you'll put down what would feel like enough. I'm going to come back to that. So, for example, in the left-hand column, some of the things that you might include under the what I currently do heading could be I check my email 12 times a day. Now, if I'm not careful, if I'm being totally honest here, if I'm not careful and really intentional about this, I can check my email 20, maybe 30 times a day. I have multiple email addresses. I use different email addresses for different things. Some of them are for my business. Some of them are for my personal life. So there are lots of inboxes for me to be checking. And if I'm not careful, I can spend a lot of time in a day checking. So if I were to count it, I'm sure, again, if I'm not being intentional, at least 20 times a day I'm checking email. So list down 10 things. How long do you spend scrolling on social media, for example? How often do you say yes to someone that comes to you with asking for a favor or a new project they want you to take on? So all the things that you do week in, week out in your business, limit it to 10 for this example, but they should be things that you do every week. List those on the left. And then on the right-hand side, this is where you would decide what is your enough line? What would be enough for you? What would be enough where you would feel like, I'm actually on top of that. I've made a contribution, or I've handled things well. I'm on top of it. So again, with my example about checking email, when I'm being intentional about that, when I'm really clear that what I want in my day and in my week is more time freedom, less stress, for example. If I only check my email inboxes maybe 2 or 3 times max in a day, that's enough. That's really all I need. I can still handle everything that needs to be handled. I'm not either obsessively looking at my inboxes, whether the little notification comes up saying there's some new email that's arrived. I can just check it 3 times a day. So maybe in the morning at some point. I don't do it first thing. I do some other things first that really set my day up well. I've talked about that in a previous episode, my morning habit stack. And then maybe I'll check. So after I've finished that and I'm ready to actually begin work, I'll check emails, but I'm only going to spend maybe 15 minutes on it. And then maybe I might check again after lunch or early in the afternoon. And then I may check it one final time at the end of the day. And that's my enough line. That's all I need to do to keep things moving, to stay on top of things. Now, I know some of you, I can hear you out there saying, but I might miss something, or what if something important comes in, or people send me something they're expecting me to respond right away. Well, okay, so this is where you get to stand in your leadership and you get to manage expectations. So if you've been used to checking email constantly and responding whenever a new message comes in right away, you just either include a little blurb at the bottom of your email messages that says something like, I am being more mindful of the time I spend in my email land. And so just know that I will respond to your message within 24 hours to the best of my ability. So you are letting people know, if you normally try to reply to everything right away, you're letting people know that you're not going to be doing that going forward, that you're going to be more intentional about this. And what I find is people are very respectful of that. And it also gives them a little nudge to say, that's probably something I need to do too, because I'm looking at my email way too often. Because you see, if we're not careful about this, it can become almost like a reflex, a twitch reflex, where what's going on in the world? I got to check my email. I check this inbox. I'm checking that inbox. Does it really make a difference in my business if I'm obsessively checking my emails every 10 or 15 minutes? It doesn't. I know it doesn't. So that's one thing you can do. You can just be really intentional and say, I'm only going to be checking my inboxes 3 times a day or twice a day. And secondly, you're going to send a notification to people and just let them know. And again, I advise just writing a little short paragraph at the bottom of every email message so that people get it. They really get it. So you're managing the expectations of others. And then you really stick to it. Because what you'll find is, I certainly found this, when I was way more intentional about even just this one thing, which is something I was doing every single day, it's like the level of stress that I didn't even realize was there, because the little notification, the little envelope that shows up saying that there's a new message coming in, a little red dot on my phone, they're designed specifically to make us stay engaged with those specific platforms. But guess what? You don't have to. You don't have to buy into that. So another thing that I've done is I've turned off notifications, because I know that when I see the little red dot on my phone, or I see the little envelope on my desktop computer beckoning me, I have I will open it. So I turn off the notifications. And if I'm checking 2 or 3 times a day, I'm going to get to it. I'll get to it eventually. And I've been doing this for long enough that I can say there's just never been a circumstance where I needed to respond to something instantly and I wasn't able to do it because I wasn't going to be checking my email for a few hours. You can add to the blurb that you put on the bottom of your emails, I'm only checking emails 2 or 3 times a day. I will endeavor to get back to you within 24 hours. If this is urgent, give me a call. And that way, if there is something that does need your immediate attention, the person can call you and get it that way. So there are workarounds. We tend to talk ourselves into a rationalization that actually isn't true. I don't need to be checking email 20 or 30 times a day, and I'm much happier when I'm not. So when you create your enough line, so you've decided, this is my line in the sand. This is what's enough, and I don't need any more than that. Do that for each of the 10 items that you've listed, and if you feel up to it, carry on. List some more things. And then maybe use your enough line and apply it to your own health. Maybe it's around having workouts. Maybe it's around doing yoga. Maybe it's around getting together with friends. I mean, anything that you find, or you have a sense that it's a bigger energy drain than you would like, use this for that and really take a look at it. Because the whole goal here is not that we keep adding more and doing more and doing more. It's about letting go of systems and habits, processes, things, people that aren't actually serving us now. Maybe they all were in the past. Fine, that's good. Acknowledge that and let it go. So the space that exists there between what you currently do and what would be enough, that's the gap. And it's not just a time gap, but that's a big one. It's also an energy gap. And it can be an identity gap too. Identity, like, who am I? If I'm someone that compulsively responds to emails the moment they come in, is that really who I want to be? No, actually, it's someone that feels like I will get to my email when it's right for me to do that. And that's only a couple of times a day. So that's my new identity around this, is I'm not checking my email compulsively. Those are the kinds of conversations you can have with yourself and with others. So the gap that exists then between what you're currently doing and what would be enough, that's, that gap is where your creativity and your capacity and your joy, that's where it leaks out, because you're on this treadmill of constant engagement with whatever it is. Most of us never really see it because doing a lot, doing so much, doing too much many times, adding more, just feels normal to us. But as soon as we write it down and really take a look at it through an exercise like this, it becomes almost impossible to ignore. And for many of the people that I've used this exercise, their enough list ends up, the enough part, the right-hand side of that page, it ends up, half as long as what I'm doing currently side, the left side of the page. And then they feel like they have so much more freedom, like they can exhale. Because freedom, I don't know about you, but many, many people I talk to when they've left a corporate job or something where they felt like they were on a treadmill and they wanted to start their own business, their own venture, they did it because they wanted more control and they wanted more freedom. But if you're just filling your time with tasks and things that drain your energy and leave you feeling like you're never caught up with anything, that's counterproductive. It goes against what you've declared you wanted in starting this venture in the first place. So just know that more column, the left-hand column, that's driven by fear of missing out, fear of falling behind, even a fear of not being enough. We tend to equate this with our identity, and that's not a good thing. The right-hand column, the enough column, that one is driven by trust in yourself, trust that you're capable of managing everything, that you're capable of scaling back on some of these tasks that take up so much time and energy and still be able to thrive with your business. Focus will outperform frenzy every time. So this is what I mean by the space between more and better, that gap there. It's where excellence starts to feel more effortless, when we can let go and we can subtract a lot of what we're doing now because we're just doing so much on autopilot. So here's your challenge for this week. I invite you to pick one area of your life, take a piece of paper, draw that line from top to bottom on the page, list out on the left-hand side 10 things, just 10 things that you do typically week in, week out, and then set up your enough line on the right-hand side for each of those 10 things. And now here's the challenge. Look to cross out even just one item on the left. Cross it out completely. You're removing it completely because it doesn't belong to the version of you that you're becoming. Now, that might be hard to do at first. That's normal. Discomfort is the echo of an outdated identity losing its grip. So just know that there's that sort of mechanism in our brains, that sort of reptilian brain that wants us to stay safe, wants us to stay small, wants us to just keep doing what we've always been doing. That's where our comfort is. That's where the safety is. But that's an outdated identity for you. You are becoming a different person. You're becoming a person who shows up differently in the world. And so there's going to be some discomfort with that. That's okay. It's normal. I promise you, it's not as bad as it might feel initially. And, if you'd like a little extra help with this, a little more clarity with it, feel free to download the Power 20 Playbook. It's in the show notes. There's a link there. It will really help you to identify other areas where you can start to let go of some of the things that are no longer serving you. It's the same framework I use with clients to help pinpoint what drives their results. It's an initial tool that I use with them, and it is powerful. And you get to release what isn't working with clarity and confidence, so you create space for what you truly want. And that's to get to that next level in a way that doesn't drain you and doesn't feel exhausting all the time. Remember, you don't create space by adding, you create it by deciding what's enough and subtracting. Okay, thank you so much for listening. That's it for this episode. As always, I would love if you can help me spread the word. So subscribe, like, share this episode with anyone that you think could benefit from hearing it. And also drop me a line. I do really enjoy hearing from you. I love to hear that a particular episode has been helpful. You've had some kind of an aha moment, some insight that has arisen, maybe something that's changed the trajectory of your life. Let me know. It's really, really gratifying for me to hear that. And what can I say? I believe in you. I know that there is more for you, but it's not by doing more. It's just by doing things differently and by subtracting. Okay, until next time, take care.